Tyler Nubin is headed to the big city, what he is bringing to the Big Apple and the New York Giants, plus a new Gopher transfer commit. We're jumping in today.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota
Whatever
Golden
turns out,
Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
What is up, Gopher fans? You are listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And today we are coming to you with a weekend episode. The NFL draft has officially concluded. I wanted to be sure to touch on what the New York Giants are getting with former Gophers safety Tyler Nubin. Then we're going to talk about two new commits, one on the 2025 freshman side, one on the transfer portal side. And then finally, with all these commits coming in from the portal, can PJ Fleck strike gold on the portal side on the field? So he's getting aggressive in the portal right now, but will it carry over to the field? We're jumping into all of that today. So sit back, relax, and hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of our Gophers content moving forward. But let's jump in. Let's talk about Tyler Nubin and what the Giants are getting in this safety who went in the second round to the New York Giants. That's back-to-back second round picks, or back-to-back years with second-round picks that are Gophers going to the Big Blue over in New York City. Now, what the Giants are getting in Tyler Nubin is a player who has high field IQ. He's a film grinder. He loves studying the film, looking at tendencies, and really diving in, breaking down everything he can before it's actual game day. Now, on top of that, he is a leader on and off the field. That was very present here in Minnesota, and everybody went as Tyler Nubin led. So Tyler Nubin leads, everybody else was following. He is a leader of that entire defense for the Gophers, not just this last year, but the year prior as well. So he is definitely a leader. He's definitely a high field IQ player, but he is a big hit maker. He will have some explosive hits, some absolutely type hits for you out there in New York. So I hope you enjoy that. But the best thing about Tyler Nubin is that he is an instinctive player who leads the program. Minnesota all-time school record in career interceptions. Tyler Nubin did that thing. Now, he is one of the best coverage players in the entire country, not just safeties. His NFL passer rating against in last year's season was a 39.6. So Nubin was great in coverage for the most part. Now, he has some versatility as well. He played 468 of his 700 plus snaps as a free safety, but he also played 198 of them lined up in the box. He also had 84 snaps in the slot. So you can move him around a little bit and get some versatility from him. Now, some things off the field you might not know about with Tyler Nubin is that he is a player who is fully confident in himself, has a lot of belief in himself, but he speaks things into existence. I can remember one time covering him at the Gophers presser after one of the games. It was the Michigan State game in which his little brother, Jordan Nubin, who plays running back for the Gophers, was the fifth string running back for the Gophers last season. Multiple guys went down to injury. Jordan Nubin stepped up, had a 200-yard game and 2 touchdowns against the Michigan State Spartans. And what Tyler Nubin said to his brother before that game, he said it and it happened, but he said, after this game, you and I are both going to be in that press conference talking about how we both had an amazing game. He speaks it into the existence, whether it be a game-winning interception and ending the game like he did about in Nebraska and got the ball back into his offense's hands to win on a game-winning field goal. There's multiple things where he says he calls his shot and he then does it. And that is something I absolutely love, is just the confidence, the belief, the swagger that he has, and he doesn't take any moment for granted. It isn't a cockiness. It isn't I always do this sort of thing. It is I have the belief and I know that there's a plan and I'm going to make it happen. And I have always appreciated that from Tyler Nubin. So that is what the New York Giants are getting. You're getting a player who's selfless, a player who, when his brother scored his first touchdown of his career, being that walk-on fifth fifth on the depth chart running back, scores his first touchdown, and safety Tyler Nubin, who is on the bench watching from afar, grabs his helmet and sprints all the way down the field to be the first person to celebrate with his younger brother. He is a player that cares about his team, his family, his coaches, and all of that before anything else. So he will give everything he has to the city of New York, and you're going to love this guy. Now, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. He talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. And like I said, family and his team is everything. He always lifts him up. He always gives confidence. One thing that New York Giants fans will probably really like about Tyler Nubin, though, is that he was a special teams player as well. Even though he was a defensive starter, even though he was a defensive captain, he didn't see that as something small. He said a special teams starter is just as important as an offensive starter, is just as important as a defensive starter. Special teams matters, and he wanted to set the tone. It was important to set the tone. So you're definitely getting a grinder. You're getting a player you are not going to regret taking. And I can tell you this for a fact that Tyler Nubin is going to work. He will never settle. So I want to stress this. If you're looking at his combine or pro day numbers and sweating the type of athlete he is, don't. You can stop stressing, stop worrying, because he had a cleanup surgery on his knee in January to start the year and was training and strengthening to get it back to 100% in time to test at those events. Now, I think he didn't get to 100%. And if he got to 100%, I think that he would have tested better and probably went higher in this draft. So just look at it as an opportunity that you probably got a steal. Now, he's a player who can play right away, and he should be a great player to fill the void that the Giants have lost with McKinney, who moved over to the Packers. And Tyler Nubin is rocking 31. I love to see it, and I love to see it because of the reason. Because Antoine Winfield Jr., his former teammate, is rocking the number. Because Jordan Howden, his former teammate and pairing in that safety room, is rocking 31. So why not add to the legacy? Why not add to that brotherhood across teams, repping that brotherhood of Gophers, all wearing the same number as 31, all coming from that Gophers safety room? Now, the things he's going to have to clean up as he goes to the pros. A couple of times he tried to play hero ball and got caught on a pump fake or bit too early trying to make that home run winning play. But I believe both the Northwestern and the Illinois games had moments of that late, allowing those teams to come back and win games that they probably should not have won against the Gophers. And it wasn't just on him, but it's still something to work on. He also has to clean up some of his run fits and the missed tackles. Now, he only had a 9% missed tackle rate. He had a ton of plays on the field in total, over 700 snaps, like I said. And I believe he was credited with 6 missed tackles on the year, but still, in the run fits, definitely has to make sure he's keeping his head up and not getting caught or tackling too high. That's another thing, is that sometimes he tackles a bit too high. So as long as he stays low, I think he'll clean that up really fast. And then the final thing is he's not blazing fast. He's not a guy who's a 4-4 guy who's going to flame down the field and make stopping tackle once somebody gets behind. But he doesn't put himself in the position to be behind or to be burned or to have somebody get deep often. This is where his field smarts, his field IQ, his film study, and how intensive he is on that helps him out. And I think that will only carry over to the pros as he learns the speed of the game, as he steps up into those moments. I think he is going to find success and be a dog for the New York Giants. So you got a real one. Now, we're going to talk about the Gophers undrafted free agents and where they landed on tomorrow's show. So be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss that going forward. But shout out to the New York Giants. Shout out to Tyler Nubin. You got a real one to pair with John Michael Schmitz, both of them former captains for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Now, coming up next, I want to talk about a new transfer commit to Minnesota. He's a big man. He is a big man. And we're going to dive into him coming up next, and a 2025 commit coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at eBay Motors, because that is the place to be if you need anything for your ride or die. That's your vehicle, because passion, drive, and patience is the winning formula to championships, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, you'll also guaranteed that those parts will fit your ride every single time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the dub. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and the eBay guaranteed fit is for U.S. customers only. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about two new commits, one that's going to be playing next year and another that will be joining the squad in 2025. Now, the first one I want to talk about is that transfer portal commit, and that is Aluma Nkele. He is a right tackle. He played at UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso, this past season. Now, he is the fifth transfer in this spring portal window that has come over to the Minnesota Gophers. But what is definitely noticeable with this man is he is a massive human being. Like, I'm talking Daniel Fa'alele big. And he is self-listed at 6'8", 350 pounds, but other sites have him listed at 6'6", 355. 247 has him listed at 6'7", 370. One thing I know, whether it's 370, whether it's 355, whether it's 6'7", 6'8", the dude is a mammoth of a human being. And he is a guy that you definitely want on your offensive line, building in the background and hopefully pushing for starter type minutes. Now, he is a player who had some starting experience with UTEP last year, but he only started 5 games. So there were some ups and downs. There were some moments, and there is that hopeful ceiling that he can break through here with Coach Callahan, who is one of the best offensive line coaches in the nation. Now, he is someone who can come in and compete right away at that right tackle position, right away with both Martez Lewis and Phillip Daniels. But what this addition tells me personally is that Phillip Daniels might be 1 year away from really pushing for that starter position. Now, he can be in the competition, he can be in the fall, and maybe he can prove me wrong. Maybe he can take that next step here over the summer and be ready to start by the fall and push for that position. But I think he might be 1 year away, just a little more muscle, a little bit more in the playbook, a little bit more just having another year of development here with Coach Callahan in the Minnesota Gophers program. But it also tells me that Martez Lewis hasn't done enough to secure the job on his own. And also that Minnesota needed some more offensive line depth. Now, they did have 5 offensive linemen from last year's roster having transferred. You've got JJ Gade, Purcell, De'Eric Mister, Cade McConnell, and Tyrell Lawrence. Now, the only one that really, well, I guess JJ Gade had some on-field experience, but the only one that was really in that too deep was Cade McConnell. So that one hurt, but now you have another player who can come in and be that depth piece right away if he doesn't win the starting job on his own. Now, because Minnesota wants Quinn Carroll to be at the right guard position, they want him on the interior because he is better. I think he is better used, and it's better for his game in that interior. But last year they had worked him at the interior all fall, all spring, and then yet on game day, Martez Lewis was kicked on the inside, Quinn Carroll on the outside, because I just don't think that there was the trust there that anybody on this roster from last year could handle the right tackle position as well as what Quinn Carroll gave them. And they needed that position to be solidified, knowing edge rushers can come off the edge and hurry. So I know this Gophers team wants Quinn Carroll on the inside. I think adding this player gives you 3 players to battle it out in the fall and really take a hold of that right tackle position, allowing Quinn Carroll to stay on the inside and be his best self for this Gophers team. So they want to ensure that happens, and I think this transfer portal ad definitely helps that case. Now, I am very intrigued by the addition, but he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. So he's still going to have to step it up in the pass block game. He had a couple games where it was graded very poorly, but a couple that were pretty good, like above average. So overall, he's got a lot of upside. Now, he is only a redshirt sophomore next year. So he started in 5 games last year, played in 10. The year before that, he was a redshirt. He was a true freshman who ended up redshirting. So this will be his redshirt sophomore year, which means I believe he has 3 years of eligibility left with the Gophers. So a lot can happen with this player, whether he be in that right tackle position or whatever fits best. But it's definitely a player to be intrigued by. Now, on the flip side of it, you've got a new 2025 commit in Enoch Atewogbola. I swear, I know I probably messed that name up, but I will get it right by the time we get him on campus here. Now, he's a 2025 commit, defensive end from Indiana, and he is a player that is starting to get those power conference offers. Now, he had offers from Northern Illinois and a couple other low major programs, but then, or G5 programs, I should say. But then he just this past couple weeks brought in an offer from Minnesota and brought in an offer from Boston College. Boston College, who is now, I believe, head coach of Bill O'Brien. So he's getting some eyeballs, getting some scholarship offers from some big coaches, Fleck and O'Brien. Overall, I think that the biggest thing for him is to hope that he continues to stay committed as he gets further in the process, because this seems like it was a really quick ad for someone that got the offer very recently. Now he's 6'4", 215 pounds. He hasn't been to campus yet, but he did set up an official visit for June. Now, it also helps that Winston De La Tibadier is his position coach, so hopefully that relationship just keeps growing, and hopefully it keeps helping him want to stay here and be with the Gophers, pairing with Emmanuel Carmo over at Cooper High School. That could be a nasty defensive end room coming from this class of 2025. So I like what he adds. He is a bit raw, but he's super athletic. He plays basketball as well. Last year, from what I can see on Max Preps, he had 17 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack as a junior, but he can take it up to another level in his senior year, and I look forward to seeing that development as it goes. So that's 2 new portal ads, or 1 portal ad, 1 2025 ad. But regardless, the Gophers are bringing in more commits, and that's what you love to see. Now, what I do want to talk about, though, is that transfer portal, because it seems like PJ is getting aggressive in the transfer portal, and we're getting some great wins. We're getting some big-time schools, LSU, Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia. Those big power blue blood type schools are having players transfer our way. So PJ is getting some big wins, but will it carry over to the field? That's what we're going to talk about to close out today's show, coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about Monopoly Go, because, all right, game off. We got to pause here and talk about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. And in Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers that you can trade with a friend and complete albums for big prizes. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. You can get hilarious emojis to taunt your friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, and like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to be discovered with Monopoly Go. So go get off the bench, go download it for free on the Google Play or the App Store, and game on. All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping it up talking about PJ Fleck winning the portal here this spring and over the course of this offseason. He's been doing very well in the portal, and I love the additions that he is having come to Dinkytown, but will it carry over to the field? Now, I love the latest additions, as we've seen 5 transfers come in this spring portal, and then we had 12 in total since the end of last season. Now, many of these players were from Power 4 programs. You got Tyler Williams coming from Georgia, Adam Kisai coming from Clemson, Jackson Howard coming from LSU, Marcus Major coming from Oklahoma, Giante McMillan coming from TCU, and then you've got Christian Driver coming from Penn State and Dylan Whitkey coming from Virginia Tech. Those are all your Power 4 programs, or those are all your transfers coming from Power 4 programs. Now, yes, a lot of these names are more younger. They don't have a ton of production on the field, but they have the talent and they have the upside that got them to those power programs, especially your Georgia, your Clemson, your LSU, your Oklahoma, your Penn State. Having players that were 4-star type guys that are now transferring in because they want their opportunity to get on the field here in Minnesota and show that they should have been playing at those power schools. That is what you like, that cream of the crop talent, and having it rise to the top is huge. But on top of that, you also have super productive lower school transfers coming in, like Max Brosmer from New Hampshire, like Ethan Robinson from Bucknell, like C.A. Bangura from Ohio, and like Jalen Varner coming from the D2 level. Now, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. Max Brosmer was the second place finisher in the Walter Payton Award, which is the FCS Heisman. Ethan Robinson was an all-conference type player for Bucknell. These are players that can do it at this next level. They just need the shot, and Minnesota is giving them that opportunity. Now, the latest addition is the only addition that I haven't named in those two categories because it doesn't really fall into either of those two trends. It's not a super productive player from a lower school or a super promising player from a power school, but you can see the upside in his size and his game experience and his connection with the assistant offensive line coach. So far, I would say PJ Fleck has been winning the transfer portal, not only from these names, but most importantly, from not losing important players to the portal. So our biggest losses so far in the portal have been Ethan Kaliakmanis, which was very early on in the process, and they answered it with this Max Brosmer addition. So it's not as worrisome when you look at it. Zach Evans was a name that Gophers fans probably didn't want to see hit the portal, but kind of understood it due to the playing time or lack of it and the injuries and what have you. But Darius Taylor was on this roster, and this was his roster moving forward. That was clear. On top of that, you had Jordan Nubin, who came and rose to the top and was able to show that he can handle the rock. On top of that, you go and you add two big transfers in with Marcus Major and C.A. Bangura. You've addressed that, and it doesn't feel like an impact blow. Now, you had Tyler Bride and Tariq Watson, both corners, hitting the transfer portal, but both were seemingly being passed on the depth chart by your Zaquan Bryan, by your Ethan Robinson, by your Rylan Kellys. So hopefully that is a wash too, and it doesn't feel as impactful. And then Cade McConnell, Gophers just answered his loss with some O-line depth in Aluma, and they have two promising offensive line recruits in this 2024 class in Nathan Roy and Brett Carroll. So there is a lot of answering of the more important portal departures that we've had, but there hasn't been any killer portal departures. You didn't lose Ariante Ursary. You didn't lose Daniel Jackson. You didn't lose Darius Taylor. You didn't lose those type of players. Now, knock on wood, whatever you got to do to unjinx something, definitely do that right now, because we still have 3 days left in which a player can hit the transfer portal as it closes here on May 1st. But I think that the Gophers are sitting pretty so far and have been winning the portal. Now, Minnesota has surprisingly held on to its own, but we still need the portal additions that have come in to carry over to the field, because in the end, that's all that matters. So PJ's portal history has been promising in that department for the most part. So you should have your hopes kind of high for these guys coming in. Now, in 2023, we had Jack Henderson, who turned into a starter level Big Ten player. I think he can be an all-conference level player in this upcoming season. Trey Jones was a starter-level Big Ten player. Corey Crooms was a starter-level Big Ten rotational receiver for us here in the Gophers. I think he was second or third on the team in receiving yards. Chris Collins was a rotational Big Ten type defensive lineman who got on the field for us for a lot of snaps. It's still to be determined with guys like Elijah Spencer and Craig McDonald, who hopefully will have a lot of opportunities this upcoming season. Then you go to the next year in the transfer portal, 2022, you had a Big Ten starter level player and an all-conference honorable mention, Chuck Filiaga. Starter level player in high production, Kyler Baugh. Starter level player in all conference, honorable mention in Quinn Carroll. Beanie Bishop, who was a starter level player for the Gophers, ended up transferring again and went on to be a stud all conference player. So again, somebody that you tapped on the right potential. You tapped on the right player who answered the call. Then you had Ryan Stapp, who answered the call a little bit, had some rotational level cornerback before he ended up, I believe, medically retiring. And you still have Darnell Jeffries, who is to be determined. A year before that, 2021, Carter Shaw was a rotational offensive lineman. Dalen Wright showed moments of high upside at the receiver position. Jack Gibbons was a starter-level player at the Big Ten and an all-conference player. Niles Pinckney was a starter-level player for you. The year before that, we didn't really have many transfers, but then 2019 was the other year in which PJ Fleck brought in some transfers, and he had Benjamin St. Juste, starter-level player and an all-conference player, and then Micah Treadway, who was a starter-level player. Now, yes, there have been some massive misses along the way. I think of Val Martin. I think of Dalen Wright could be seen as kind of a miss as well. There are a number of them that happened, but the hits have been far greater than the misses, in my opinion. So I am sure there will be some misses in this class as well, but Fleck and the staff have had a pretty good hit rate in production with their number of transfers. So it's worth the excitement if you're a Gophers fan. Have your fingers crossed. Be ready to cheer these guys on, and maybe we'll get 2-3 more additions before the portal closes, before we actually start to wrap up this roster. Now, just because the portal closes on May 1st doesn't mean that you can't still add players, but I think it will start to be kind of wrapped up by the middle of May. The rosters will kind of be figured out, and you'll be going from there. So we'll definitely keep you posted on any more additions here at Locked On Golden Gophers. But until then, I will see you tomorrow. Row the boat, Sky, you might go Gophers as always, and don't forget to hit subscribe.